Let me take you back to the exact moment my suspicions stopped being shadows and started screaming in fluorescent lighting. The supermarket aisle. Romantic, I know. I'm standing there with a box of oats in one hand and existential dread in the other. That's when I see her, my wife, Nina. Or, as I like to call her now, the Duchess of Deceit. She didn't see me. I had just ducked into the next aisle to grab my coffee when I noticed her in the chocolate section. She was holding two. One plain. The other, a fancier little bar wrapped in gold foil with a small insert that said, "You are my little tiger." Now let's pause. That's not her style. Nina thinks pet names are juvenile. When I once called her Honeybee, she looked at me like I'd just quoted a Nicholas Sparks novel in public. So why was she holding a chocolate bar that looked like it came with a marriage proposal and a back rub? I walked by casually. She spotted me, blinked once, and held up the tiger bar like it was radioactive. "Oh," she said too quickly. "This one's for a friend. Her kid's obsessed with tigers. It's a whole birthday thing." Oh, the classic "it's for a friend" move. Been in the playbook since ancient Rome. I nodded, smiled, didn't flinch. But my curiosity? That was now fully caffeinated. That night, while she was in the shower, where all unfaithful thoughts are scrubbed clean, apparently, I checked her purse. Not proud, but not sorry either. And there it was. A small leather notebook with her unmistakable handwriting. "See you later, little tiger." My heartbeat slowed. It didn't spike, it just settled. Like a decision had been made in a room I didn't know I was in. She lied. Not just casually, not out of fear, but with precision. She had rehearsed. I closed the notebook, placed it right back where I found it. Then, I got up, found an envelope, and carefully slipped that tiger note inside it. I placed the envelope in a wooden box, one she loved, mahogany, etched with vines, where she kept letters from me, from her mother, from some yoga retreat that changed her aura. And just before sealing it, I added a few of her favorite candies. A farewell gift. She wouldn't know it yet, but she would. Let's rewind a little. You need context. You need to know how we got here. Nina and I met at a college debate tournament. She beat me on the topic of honesty in politics, which, in hindsight, is hilarious. I was smitten. She was sharp, sarcastic, the kind of woman who'd correct your grammar and your posture in one sentence. I was steady, observant, a little too quiet for her friends, but she said that was what she liked, that I didn't need to be loud to be strong. 10 years. One dog. No kids. Her choice. Too many carbon footprints. A mortgage, a shared Spotify, and a Google Calendar full of together time. We were predictable, but I was okay with that. I believed in predictable. She believed in adventure, which, as I later found out, included clandestine coffee meetups, a few late strategy calls with a guy named Theo who sells motivational courses online and still says bro unironically, and, apparently, secret tiger-themed affairs. So that night, I did what any strong, quiet man does when his wife feeds him lies for dessert. I didn't confront her. I planned. Not petty, not loud, just deliberate. Because if Nina wanted drama, she was about to meet a man who could write it in 10 acts, with a plot twist she'd never forget. But I'll get to that. The day after the supermarket slip-up, Nina was back to her usual polished chaos. Eating avocado toast like it was an Olympic sport, wearing that silk blouse she said was too fancy for errands, and kissing me on the cheek like she hadn't just bought tiger chocolate for her side quest. "So," she said over coffee, "I might be working late this week. Theo's pushing for a new launch. Big deadline." Theo. There he was. Like clockwork. I nodded, sipping slowly. Still can't believe a motivational speaker needs a content strategist. Isn't that like a poet hiring a ghostwriter? She laughed, a little too loud, then changed the subject to the neighbor's cat. Now, I'm not a PI, but I do have an unhealthy relationship with spreadsheets, pattern recognition, and self-control. So that week, I played dumb and logged everything. Monday, she worked late. Came home at 9:17 p.m. hair a little windblown. Lipstick smudged, but her mouth claimed it was the wind. Tuesday, she left for work without her laptop. Claimed she forgot it. I checked her screen time later. Instagram, 3 minutes. Messages, 87 minutes. Wednesday, she said she was going to Pilates. Left in running shoes, came back in heels. Said she changed after class. Each day, she layered lie on top of lie like she was building a souffle of betrayal. And I just smiled. Because I wasn't trying to catch her. I was collecting evidence for the courtroom in my head. Then came Thursday. We were both invited to a mutual friend's engagement dinner. She couldn't make it. Said she had a webinar with a client in Spain. Spain, huh? I went solo. Spent the night shaking hands, avoiding small talk, and quietly asking a few friends if they'd seen Nina around lately. Most said no. But Sam, bless his tactless heart, said, "Wasn't she at that rooftop bar last weekend with some dude? Tall guy, weird necklace." Weird necklace? I smiled politely. No clue, Sam. Probably a misunderstanding. He nodded. Probably. Hey, pass the sliders. That night, I got home before her. Her toothbrush was dry. Her side of the bed still made. She finally stumbled in at 2:11 a.m., smelled like gin and eucalyptus body spray. Didn't even flinch when she saw me awake. Couldn't sleep, she mumbled. Spain client took forever. I just nodded. She went to the bathroom, closed the door. That's when I heard it. Her giggle, but not at a message, at a voice note. I stood up, walked silently to the door, and placed my ear near the wood. From the other side, Theo's voice came through, faint but clear. "Miss you already, little tiger. Same time tomorrow." She laughed again, whispered, "Of course." I didn't sleep. Not because of heartbreak, because I finally had all the proof I needed. You see, I'd already set things in motion. The envelope was just the beginning. Now it was time to put the second part of the plan into play. And trust me, when I'm done, Theo won't be calling her little tiger. He'll be calling me sir. By Friday, I had already drafted the letter. Typed, double-spaced, folded neatly into a cream-colored envelope. Not because I planned to mail it. No, this was for presentation. I tucked it into the bottom drawer of my desk, right beside the will she never knew I updated. You could say I was preparing for war, but not the screaming, plate-throwing kind she seemed built for. Mine was going to be tidy, strategic, with confetti. Yes, confetti, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. That morning, I walked into the kitchen like it was any other day. She was already there, humming, buttering toast with more joy than someone who just burned their marriage should have. "Sleep okay?" she asked. "Like a log," I said. Dreamed I was swimming in a river. Clear water. Peaceful. She smiled, totally missing the symbolism. I reached into the cupboard, pulled down a small gift box. Silver, with a white ribbon. It had been sitting there for a while, meant originally for our anniversary. "I got you something," I said casually, setting it on the table. She blinked. "Why?" "Just because. You've been busy lately." "Oh." Her fingers twitched a little. She opened it slowly. Inside, a small box of her favorite Belgian truffles. And beneath the chocolates, the envelope. Unopened. Untouched. But waiting. "What's this?" she asked, pulling it out. "Something I found," I replied. "Thought it belonged to you." She hesitated. "Should I open it now?" "No rush," I said, taking a sip of my coffee. Some things are better savored. That night, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered. I hadn't touched her phone in over a year. But this time, I picked it up and transferred everything. Not screenshots. Transfers. Voice notes, messages, contact lists, deleted photos. Yes, even the recently deleted album. All packaged neatly into a hard drive with a label that read, "For legal use only." Just in case. And for the record, I didn't open a single message. Not out of restraint. Out of contempt. I already knew the gist. Heard enough whispers through bathroom doors and late-night giggles. The next morning, I scheduled brunch with my lawyer. Lovely woman. Brilliant mind. Smelled like cinnamon and courtroom winds. "Asset separation?" she asked. "Yes." "Any children?" "No." "Joint accounts?" "Frozen as of yesterday." She smiled. "You're good." I shrugged. "I listen better than I talk." She nodded. "That's dangerous." "Exactly. Now here's where the story twists. The weekend rolled around, and I told Nina I had a team-building retreat out of town. She waved me off like a houseplant. Probably thought she had 48 hours of unsupervised tiger time. She did not. I was 4 blocks away, in a guest house I'd rented under a fake name 2 weeks ago. Why? Because I had hired someone. Well, 2 someones. One was a private investigator named Jules. Short, sharp, former IRS, and blessed with the moral compass of a tax audit. She liked facts, surveillance, time-stamped records, emotionless betrayal, documented in HD. The other? We'll save him for later. Let's just say he owed me a favor. And he knew Theo. Let's just say Nina wasn't the only one with a little black book. That night, while she was at her usual co-working space, Theo posted a photo on his private Instagram. Him, candlelight, a woman's hand holding a wine glass. What he didn't realize, Jules had already cloned his phone. So now I had the original photo, with the geotag still attached. A high-rise suite downtown, exactly where Nina had claimed she was meeting a publisher. Publisher, please. I stared at the screen, heart steady, mouth dry. And then, I smiled. Because tomorrow was going to be Sunday. And Sundays? Sundays were for revelations. Sunday morning arrived like a ticking clock. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Just a quiet sort of tension humming underneath the sunlight. The kind that makes you feel like the air knows something you don't. Nina was still asleep when I left. Not that she noticed. She'd come home late the night before, hair curled, perfume sweet and unfamiliar. She claimed she was at a networking dinner, then passed out on the couch halfway through reruns of some British show where everyone wears vests and lies politely. That was fine. Let her rest. She was going to need her strength. By 9 a.m., I was downtown, standing across the street from the Fairmore Plaza Hotel. The kind of place with valet parking, high thread count linens, and champagne that costs more than tires. Theo had good taste. Or maybe he just liked spending her money. Jules had already sent me the room number. 1903. She'd also confirmed checkout was scheduled for noon. That meant we had time. See, I wasn't there to kick down doors. I wasn't even there to confront. That would have given her too much power. No, this wasn't about her anymore. This was about the truth. Unwrapped, unedited, and delivered with a bow. I waited in the cafe across the street, sipping black coffee and watching the hotel's revolving doors spin through guests and regrets. At 11:52, my phone buzzed. Camera. Room service cart. Champagne for two. She answered the door in his shirt. Jules had done her job. It was time for me to do mine. Back home, I prepared the house like it was a crime scene. Not because I was angry, because I was ready. I set out the chocolates again, the box she thought was sweet and sentimental. I added a card this time. Inside it, that same little tiger note she left in her notebook. See you later, little tiger. My handwriting was beneath it now. Hope it was worth it. On the coffee table, I placed the manila folder. The one with screenshots, timestamps, printed text chains. All labeled and highlighted like a school project she forgot was due. Next to it, a silver USB stick, labeled Play Me. The USB held a single video file, footage from Theo's Instagram Live that he didn't realize went public for 3 minutes before he deleted it. A toast. To her. Her laugh. Her voice. Her hand in his lap. It wasn't graphic. Just obvious. And that was enough. I didn't leave it out of revenge. I left it for clarity. Because I was tired of living with someone who lied better than she listened. Then came the final piece. I opened the hall closet and pulled down the box labeled Nina's Sentimental Junk. Inside were love notes I wrote her over the years, little poems, anniversary cards. She used to keep them in a decorative tin she called her memory vault. I dumped it all into a new box. Added the tiger chocolates. The card. The USB. And on top, a fresh envelope. Inside it was a copy of our divorce papers. Signed. Filed. Processed. I'd been working on them in silence for 3 months. I hadn't said a word, because I wanted to give her every opportunity to prove me wrong. She didn't. So I took that silence and made it official. The house was clean, calm. I stood in the living room one last time and looked around. No yelling. No tears. No big confrontation where I scream, "How could you?" And she pretends to be surprised. Just goodbye. And then I walked out. Locked the door behind me. Dropped my key into the mailbox with the flick of a wrist. But here's the part one didn't tell you. I wasn't disappearing. I was relocating next door. Yeah, you read that right. Because this wasn't a story where the guy walks off into the sunset and licks his wounds. No, this was the part where the magician reveals the trick. A week earlier, the Thompsons, our quiet, cardigan-loving neighbors, had asked if I could house sit while they went on a cruise. I said yes, then offered to pay them double to let me stay through the end of the month. Why? Because I wanted to watch. Not her. Not in some creepy, lurking kind of way. I wanted to see how long it would take before she realized her audience was gone. That her mirror was empty. That the man who used to carry her world on his shoulders had stepped off the stage without applause. She came home around 1 p.m. I watched from the bay window next door, coffee in hand, heart steady. She walked in, carrying a shopping bag like she hadn't just spent the weekend on someone else's pillow. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then a slam. I imagined she opened the envelope, saw the note, the footage, the papers, the absence. 15 minutes later, she stormed outside. No jacket, no shoes, just fury and disbelief. She looked down at the mailbox, saw the key, looked up, looked around, like a woman who just realized the safety net had vanished. She didn't know I was watching, but she started crying, or maybe screaming. I couldn't hear, didn't need to, because the silence I left behind was louder than anything she could have screamed. Later that night, I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer. Then a text. "Where are you?" I replied with one word. "Free." She didn't respond. That was the most honest thing she'd ever done. Next morning, I mailed the final copy of the divorce agreement to her office, along with a receipt for the chocolates. Let her file that under expenses, because as far as I'm concerned, that tiger got declawed. It took Nina exactly 3 days to respond. 3 full days without a call, a knock, or one of her dramatic drive-by sob sessions. Honestly, I was impressed. I half expected her to show up outside the Thompsons' house with mascara streaks and a monologue about how this wasn't what it looks like. But no, what finally came was a text. "You left me over a misunderstanding? Seriously? You didn't even talk to me." I stared at the screen for a long minute. Then I laughed. Because that message? That wasn't confusion. That was marketing. It was her trying to spin a scandal like a PR firm cleaning up a celebrity's drunk tweet. So I replied, "You're right. I didn't talk. I listened. For months." She didn't reply. Not right away, anyway. But I knew the spin cycle had started. And just as expected, it wasn't long before my phone lit up with messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Her friend Camille. "Hey, Nina said you ghosted her? What's going on? You guys were solid." Her cousin Jace. "Heard you walked out. That's cold, man. Did she cheat, or are you just having a midlife crisis?" Even her mother texted me. The same woman who once said my job was cute. "Nina's devastated. Can you at least explain what happened? She deserves closure." Closure. I stared at that one for a while. You know what no one ever tells you? Closure isn't something you give. It's something people demand when they realize you've already healed without them. That night, I opened my laptop and went to work. I wasn't going to defend myself. I wasn't going to fight her PR campaign. I was going to end it. Digitally, of course. I'm a gentleman. See, Nina had spent the better part of our marriage branding herself online as the honest wife. A lifestyle blog with pastel fonts, sunset selfies, and long posts about radical vulnerability in modern relationships. She had 13,000 followers, a little audience, a curated image. And like any good audience, they loved a behind-the-scenes reveal. So I wrote one. Not messy, not bitter, just factual. I posted a photo of the tiger chocolate box. Just the box. Nothing more. Captioned, "When you find the note that unties 10 years of marriage. When you realize the person who called you boring was rehearsing punchlines for someone else. When you don't burn the house down, you just pack, walk away, and leave a gift on the table. Some farewells are silent. Some taste like Belgian chocolate." This one did both. Hashtag little tiger, hashtag goodbye means go, hashtag closure delivered. No names. No accusations. Just poetry and receipts. Within 2 hours, the comments section looked like a bonfire. I followed her for years. OMG. This is heartbreak done with style. Did she seriously cheat with someone who says rawr in bed? This man weaponized elegance. Bravo. By the time Nina realized what was happening, the post had gone viral. Not millions, but enough to blow the lid off her curated peace and love fantasy. She messaged me again. "What the hell is wrong with you?" This time, I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the post to Theo, attached with a short message. "Your little tiger just lost her fan base. Enjoy the exclusivity." Now here's the fun part. Jules, my PI, my secret weapon, had done more than just track their hotel hideouts. She dug. Turns out, Theo wasn't just a motivational speaker. He was also married to a woman named Clarissa. And Clarissa? Well, Clarissa was exceptional. Not only did she respond to my email with composure and curiosity, she asked if we could meet. So we did. Wednesday afternoon, in a little cafe near the courthouse. She wore a gray blazer and a face that said she'd done this before. "I read your message," she said, "and watched the video. I knew something was off. But you? You gave me the puzzle pieces." I nodded. "You deserve honesty." He didn't. She smiled faintly. Neither did your wife. Nope. We sat in silence for a beat. Then she said, you planning revenge? Already happening. She raised an eyebrow. Public or private? I smiled. Both. That weekend, Nina texted again. You're ruining me. I hope you're proud of yourself. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I had already given her everything. The chocolates, the closure, the consequences. But she still hadn't opened the last gift. See, inside that same silver box, beneath the truffles and the tiger note, I had slipped in one final surprise. A small, printed receipt from a flower delivery service. It showed an order placed 5 weeks ago. A dozen white lilies. Delivered to Clarissa Woods. With a note. He's all yours now. Signed, the wife who knew. By the following week, Nina's world was crumbling faster than her self-control in a Zara sale. Her blog? On indefinite hiatus. Her Instagram? Switched to private. Her inner circle of wine-sipping girl bosses? Suddenly very quiet. The image she'd spent years polishing, her brand, her truth, her radical vulnerability, had cracked like old plaster. And I hadn't lifted a single finger to defend or attack her. That's what made it worse. I left the matchbox at her feet and let her light the fire herself. Now, if I were a lesser man, I'd have stayed in the background. Disappeared entirely, let karma handle it like an unpaid intern with a hangover. But I'm not lesser. I'm thorough, so I plan one last gift. Not for her. Not for Theo. For me. A closing ceremony. It came in the form of an invite. Printed, heavy cardstock. Gold edges. A wax seal. Delivered to Nina's workplace. Addressed formally to her desk. You are cordially invited to a private farewell gathering in honor of your decade-long marriage to Michael Allen. Date: this Saturday. Dress code: closure. Location: disclosed upon RSVP. Please bring only your honesty. Everything else will be provided. Now, the Michael Allen part? That was me. And yes, I invited her to her own downfall. Because sometimes, you don't need to burn bridges. You host a cocktail party on them and send out invites with a smile. Saturday arrived. I'd rented out a private room at a high-end restaurant, somewhere she always wanted to dine but insisted we couldn't afford it. Funny how she found the budget for rooftop martinis with Theo, though. The guest list was curated. Not packed, but precise. 10 people. Friends who mattered. Mutuals who suspected. And, most deliciously, 2 people I knew she tried to charm for years and failed. Even Theo got an invitation. But I knew he wouldn't come. Cowards rarely show up to collect their trophies when the crowd isn't cheering. She walked in at 7:42 p.m., wearing a crimson dress and a look that could boil holy water. She tried to appear unaffected, but her eyes did that fast skin thing, looking for cameras, exits, allies. There were none. Just me, standing beside a small stage, holding a flute of champagne and an expression of absolute calm. Michael, she said tight-lipped. What the hell is this? I smiled. A celebration. We made it to the finish line. She laughed once. Hello. This is sick. Thank you. That means a lot. She scanned the room again. A few faces smiled back. One woman raised her glass. Nina had no idea if they were there for her or for the show. Spoiler alert, both. I walked her over to a single table set up in the middle. There was a chair waiting. For her. Facing the rest of us. She didn't sit. So I began anyway. Thank you all for coming, I said. I wanted to gather those who've known us, known me, for the past 10 years. A decade is a long time to share a life, and when it ends, I think it deserves a proper send-off. Someone clapped. I continued. Now, I'm not here to air dirty laundry. I'm here to fold it, put it away, and donate it to someone else's drama. But I do want to leave with something I haven't had in months, maybe even years. I turned to Nina. Clarity. She didn't speak. She just glared. I reached down, opened a small box next to me, pulled out a piece of paper. It was a note. See you later, little tiger. Her face changed. Color drained. Her lips parted slightly, but still, nothing came out. I held it up. This was tucked inside a chocolate bar. Bought in aisle 5 of the Marshfield Supermart on a Tuesday afternoon. At the time, I was told it was for a friend's kid. I chuckled. Turns out, the only child involved was me, for believing it. Still silence. I pulled out another item. A USB stick. I won't play what's on here. Everyone in this room has heard enough whispers already. But this contains every voice note, message, and hotel check-in timestamp that someone thought would stay private. I placed it gently on the table in front of her. She still didn't move. Just then, Clarissa entered the room. Perfect timing. She walked up beside me like we'd rehearsed. Calm, poised, wearing white, bold, poetic. Theo's wife. Or rather, ex-wife, as of last Thursday. Clarissa smiled at Nina. I brought the thing you left in my car. She handed Nina a bracelet. One of those little live, laugh, love, charm bracelets. Nina used to wear it like a badge. You must have taken it off in Theo's back seat, Clarissa added gently. Easy mistake. A few guests murmured. One gasped. Nina finally stood. I can't believe you dragged me here for this. I didn't drag you, I said. I invited you. You RSVP'd. She shook her head. You think you look noble? Petty revenge in a party hat. I stepped closer. This isn't revenge, Nina. This is a eulogy. She opened her mouth to fire back, but Clarissa beat her to it. You told my husband he deserved better. That he should be celebrated, not tolerated. Clarissa's voice didn't rise. It floated. And now? He's yours. Congratulations. Nina's jaw clenched. You people are insane. Probably, I said. But at least we're honest. Then I raised my glass. To endings. Everyone toasted. Nina left. No scene. No scream. No dramatic stomp of heels. Just a quiet, controlled retreat, like a queen realizing her crown was made of tinfoil. The night wound down gently. People clapped me on the back, gave knowing nods, murmured variations of, you handled that with class. But I didn't care about that. I cared about freedom. Because that night wasn't about hurting her. It was about liberating me. She had written a story and cast me as the supporting character in her drama. So I rewrote the ending and threw a party to celebrate the rewrite. The day after the party, I woke up in the quietest house I'd ever known. No Nina pacing in heels. No espresso machine hissing like it was personally offended. No perfume cloud trailing through the hallway like a designer guilt bomb. Just silence. And it was perfect. I made eggs. Sat at the table. Read the news. Didn't flinch once. It wasn't just freedom, it was peace. The kind you don't know you've been missing until you taste it and wonder how you ever ate anything else. Meanwhile, Nina, she went dark. Her blog vanished. The Instagram? Scrubbed. The friends? They scattered like roaches under LED lighting. Theo? Oh, he went quiet too. Clarissa had served him with divorce papers wrapped in a hand-painted "You got this" card. A fitting touch. So, while Nina tried to crawl her way back into anonymity, I started something new. A podcast. The Quiet Exit, where I told stories about walking away with grace, dignity, and a well-timed USB stick. It started small, then took off like a rocket with revenge for fuel. Turns out, people love a clean escape. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. The truth echoes loudest when it doesn't have to shout. A few weeks later, a letter arrived. Yes, a letter. Like it was 1996, and she thought emotional manipulation worked better with postage. It was from Nina. The handwriting was careful, which already told me she was trying to sound composed. When Nina rushed, her E.S. looked like broken umbrellas. The letter read, Michael, I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that I see it now. I see everything. What I did. What I lost. Who I became. I thought you were boring. I thought stillness meant weakness. But the way you walked away without breaking a single thing? That shook me. I wanted to be the exciting one. The electric one. But I realize now that stability is a superpower. You were always the better one. I'm sorry. Nina. I read it twice. Folded it. Slipped it into a new envelope. Then slid it into a box marked evidence of growth. Theirs, not mine. That was all it deserved. She'd figured it out, but only after she lost the audience. That wasn't remorse. That was regret. Big difference. 2 months passed. The world turned. Life moved forward. Then came the text. From an unknown number. Hi. I know this is weird. My name is Daniel. I'm Nina's brother. I blinked. We'd never met. She used to say he was chaotic energy wrapped in denim. They hadn't spoken in years. She asked me to reach out. Said she can't stop dreaming about you. That maybe she didn't lose everything yet. Said if there's any part of you that still remembers how it felt at the beginning, she wants a chance to talk. Just talk. One coffee. One walk. I stared at the message for a long while. Then I put the phone down and walked outside. It was raining. Not a storm. Just one of those light, cleansing showers that make everything smell like a new beginning. I thought about our first walk. She'd called me quiet, but magnetic. Said I made her feel anchored. I remembered the first time she wore my hoodie. The one she later gave away accidentally during a clothing swap. I remembered our inside jokes. I remembered her laughter. Before it became a weapon, I remembered all of it. Then I whispered, no, not out of spite, out of certainty. Because closure isn't something you beg for. It's something you earn. 1 year later, I moved into a new house. Smaller, brighter, no ghosts in the walls. Just hardwood floors and clean counters. A porch with wind chimes. A bookshelf I built myself. No photo albums filled with lies. No drawer filled with question marks. Just me. And peace. One day, while unpacking, I came across the old Tiger chocolate box. I hadn't opened it since the final showdown. Inside were her letters, the candy wrappers, the printed texts, the receipts. All of it. I took it outside, sat on the porch, and started removing each item. Not angrily, not bitterly, just gently. And one by one, I dropped them into a fire pit. Watched them curl, fade, disappear. The last thing I burned? A sticky note. The original message from her journal. See you later, little tiger. As it turned to ash, I finally smiled. Not because I won, but because I no longer needed to. She had her tiger. I had my dignity. And now, I had my story.